News Kids on the Block. We bring to you stories that top the nation's papers, fresh from the IVM and Ascend International School desks. This show is brought to you by Intel. Future Bana Wonderful with an Intel-powered laptop. Hi, I'm Kavya.
I'm Anya, and welcome back to this week's episode. Today we won't be having Trivik join us. However, we will be stuck with the two of us.
And Anya, why don't you kick us off with the first story of the episode?
So our first story for today is the Agneepath military recruitment policy. This policy, also known as the Agniveer policy, was unveiled this past Tuesday on the 14th of June by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. And it is a policy that addresses soldiers' recruitment in the Indian Armed Forces. So basically, to simplify this policy, non-commissioned officers or NCOs are recruited for a 4-year period. And after that 4-year period, 25% of them will be retained for additional services with a more permanent and stable job, and the rest would be let go. At the end of the 4 years, the 25% would have had to serve for a minimum of 15 more years. The reason for the government taking forward this policy is that they want the army to constantly, or the military in general, the armed forces, to constantly be growing and evolving so that it's a younger, more tech-savvy military, according to Outlook India. The 75% personnel that are released, however, critics are saying would lead to individuals who are unemployed. And so it would take away job security completely. The Agneepath policy has also been called the tour of duty, according to the Defense Ministry. In a statement, the Defense Ministry said that it will provide an opportunity to the youth who may be keen to don the uniform by attracting young talent from the society who are more in tune with contemporary technological trends and plow back skilled, disciplined, and motivated manpower into the society. But that being said, many have said that this new recruitment policy cuts down the ballooning salary and pensions of bills that the armed forces have, which in recent years have increased so much that the military now has very little money for capital expenses. The soldiers who are released after 4 years aren't going to get lifelong benefits or pensions either. The 2022-23 budget said that the defense budget was about 525,166 crore rupees, out of which a substantial 22% was designated to pension. That being said, the Agneepath policy keeps their physical, medical, and educational standards the same. Soldiers are paid 30,000 per month in the first year, and then it gradually in the 4th year rises to 40,000. The policy also chooses to recruit both men and women between the ages of 17 and a half and 21 years. The Defense Ministry said that enrollment will be undertaken through an online centralized system for all 3 services with specialized rallies and campus interviews from recognized technical institutes such as Industrial Training Institutes and National Skills Qualification Framework, amongst others. The recruitment will also be an all-India, all-class format as compared to the British-era caste and class-based recruitment. As I said earlier, while this policy hopes to maintain a more youthful and tech-savvy military, it's also come under a lot of criticism for the amount of unemployment that it will generate, because these individuals, presuming that they join the army at a relatively young age, at the start of their careers and their professional lives, this has been described as the militarization of society by the former Director General of Military Operations, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, because there are all of these unemployed soldiers who were trained as soldiers, trained to think very differently in the military, that are just released every year. They also said that after, you might have seen this on television, sometimes dramatized, but at the same time, it can be very hard for people who have been working in the public sector for a while even, to then go and get jobs in the private sector where, that more specialization is required, and the military wouldn't necessarily allow these young men and women to find that specialization and to find a way to help them in the long run in terms of their careers.
Thanks, Anya. I will take us into the next story, which is about little blue penguins known as Korora. And an alarming number of the penguins' bodies have been washing up on the beaches of New Zealand, where they are native. Conservationists have been trying to figure out why these penguins have been dying on such a large scale since early May. And Graham Taylor, who is a principal science advisor who studies seabirds at the New Zealand Department of Conservation, said based on initial lab results, malnutrition may be the biggest cause of death of these penguins. And this, believe it or not, has got to do with climate change. So these birds usually eat small fish, and they can dive up to 30 meters, about 100 feet, to catch this prey. But due to the fact that water temperature is rising because of climate change, these small fish are moving to colder waters. And these waters are unfortunately too deep for these birds to reach. So in turn, it results in starvation in these birds and results in death. So I think it's just another example of how climate change is affecting every species, and some on a larger scale than others, but everyone is eventually going to get affected by climate change. So it's important that we start doing something to reverse climate change, or stop it, or make it better, because we're seeing devastating results already. On that note, we will take a quick break with Intel powered laptops, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You are listening to News Kids on the Block, powered by Intel, and I will also be taking us into the next story, which is about the upcoming India tour of Ireland that is coming at the end of June. This tour will only consist of 2 T20 matches, because a lot of squad members are going to be in England preparing for that test match. But the leaders who recently announced, and I thought we would have a quick discussion about it. So it was announced that Hardik Pandya will be leading the squad. I think he was really able to prove his leadership skills in the IPL, where he captained Gujarat Titans to the win. And he was really able to show everybody that he has what it takes to be a good leader, and he can lead a team to victory. Bhuvaneshwar Kumar will be the vice captain of this team. And the other players in the squad are Ruturaj Gaikwad, Ishan Kishan, Sanju Samson, Surya Kumar Yadav, who's back after finally recovering from his injury, Rahul Tripathi, Venkatesh Iyer, Deepak Hooda, Dinesh Karthik, Hardik Pandya, Akshar Patel, Ravi Bishnoi, Yuzvendra Chahal, Harshal Patel, Avesh Khan, Arshdeep Singh, and Umran Malik. And in fact, it is Rahul Tripathi's debut. It will be his debut playing for India. Rahul Tripathi told PTI, "It is a very big opportunity, a dream come true, and it is appreciated. I'm very happy that the selectors and everybody believed in me, and whatever hard work I've put in, I've got the rewards. And hopefully, if I get an opportunity to play, I will try and give my best." I think it was really his contribution to the IPL was really noticed. And I think that's the great thing about the IPL. It gives a chance to young and upcoming cricketers to really show what they're capable of. VVS Lakshman will be the head coach of India, he'll be standing in for the regular head coach Rahul Dravid, since he will be in England. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what India can do in this tour.
Thanks, Kavya. Our next story comes from our neighbor, Pakistan, who has recently been struggling to keep their country's economy afloat. One of Pakistan's senior ministers, Ehsan Iqbal, said that sipping fewer cups of tea per day would cut down Pakistan's high import bills. BBC reported that Pakistan is the largest importer of tea, buying in more than $600 million or 501 million euros worth of tea last year. From the Pakistani media, Mr. Iqbal said that he appeals to the nation to cut down the consumption of tea by 1 to 2 cups because we import tea on a loan. Business traders were also urged to close their market stalls at 8:30 p.m. in order to save electricity. Now, this story obviously seems a bit absurd. Like, how can drinking tea save the economy? Or, by just cutting out tea before. But Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves dropped from about $16 billion in February to less than $10 billion in the first week of June, barely enough to cover the cost of 2 months of all its imports. Previously on the podcast, we talked about how their now former Prime Minister Imran Khan lost a no-confidence majority and was forced to step down. And then their new Prime Minister, Mr. Sharif, is currently ruling and is currently part of the ruling party. And he has obviously multiple times criticized the previous government, including saying that Imran Khan's government has mismanaged the economy and putting it back would be a huge challenge. Again, according to the BBC, his cabinet last week unveiled a fresh $47 billion budget aimed at convincing the IMF or the International Monetary Fund to restart a stalled $6 billion bailout program. The IMF deal was negotiated in 2019, but it was later paused after lenders questioned Pakistan's finances. So clearly, Pakistan's being forced to get a little bit creative as they try to get out of this economic, almost what's heading towards an economic recession. And was just one interesting way for them to do it. I mean, think about it, right? Like in India and Pakistan, a lot of these Southeast Asian countries and Asian countries in general, actually, tea is such a big part of like culture. Like whether you drink it in the morning or you drink it in the afternoon or you drink it when relatives come over. And it's almost like tea is like a staple in every house. But because for Pakistan, they're not necessarily growing their own tea, and they're not necessarily manufacturing their own tea, they're forced to import it from outside. And the high import loan, like I said, has put some pressure onto their economy.
On that note, we will take a quick break with Intel powered laptops and we'll be right back. Guys, you see what time it is? It's time to brainstorm, powered by Intel. Let's see what our question of the day today is. What tech changes would you bring around if you were the richest person in the world?
If I was the richest person in the world, I'd hire all the hackers and then get them to stop hacking and rather pay them for security and research purposes for the greater good. That's where all my money is going.
Oh God, Anya, so boring. If I was the richest person in the world, firstly, I'd set up a bot that shows me exactly how much money I have at all times. Then, after I'm done admiring that, I'd fund projects that create smarter robotic technologies, such as those working in space exploration and healthcare.
I'd spend all my money on improving artificial intelligence and machine learning. Won't it be fun to have robots around which can actually think and feel and make their own decisions and actually have a personality? I'd also pay them to have a more human-sounding voice. But hey, while I only dream of improving AI, there is actually a way anyone who wants to learn AI can get access to a ton of material on it. When you buy an Intel-powered PC, you get access to their digital readiness program, which helps you become AI ready. Future for now wonderful with an Intel-powered PC. Welcome back to New Kids on the Block, powered by Intel. It was great to hear Trivik's voice there for a bit in the episode, but it's back to Anya for her story.
Thanks, Kavya. Welcome back. Like you said, the next story is a recent study from the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago. India is today the second most polluted country in the world after Bangladesh. However, this could have been changed if the new stringent WHO norms were met, according to a new Air Quality Life Index analysis released this last Tuesday, the 14th of June. Pollution could possibly cut down 7.6 years of life expectancy of 40% of Indians who live in the Indo-Gangetic Plains, according to the release report by the EPIC, or like I said, the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago. We all know that pollution is such a huge problem, and pollution can give rise to numerous diseases, especially respiratory diseases, and part of why we die as well when we stop breathing. But according to this report, pollution has become such a great threat to human health in India, and I'm quoting from the Times of India here, reducing life expectancy by 5 years, whereas child maternal malnutrition reduces it by about 1.8 years, and smoking reduces the life expectancy rate by an average of 1.5 years. The AQLI in the Indo-Gangetic Plains of northern India, nearly 40% of Indian population is set to lose 7.6 years of life expectancy on average if the current pollution levels persist. Our capital, Delhi, is perhaps the world's most polluted capital, and people could lose up to 10 years of their lives, whether if India does not make more attempts to adhere to the new WHO health standards. Currently, the potential gain in life expectancy from reducing to the WHO guidelines start with UP and end with Odisha. In 2019, India launched a national clean air program with a goal to reduce particulate population by 20 to 30% in 2017 by 2024. The Times of India says that the NCAP targets are non-binding. However, and I'm quoting again, however, if India were able to achieve and sustain this reduction, it would lead to remarkable health improvements, according to the AQLI, a permanent nationwide reduction of 25%. The midpoint of NCAP's target range would increase India's average national life expectancy by 1.4 years and by 2.6 years for residents of the National Capital Territory of Delhi. So obviously, the article is quite long and extensive, and you can read the original study as well. But obviously, we know that pollution is a problem, and the fact that our life expectancy rate is being changed because of it, I think that that's really scary. And it's not yet fully too late to do something about it, but the climate crisis is something that needs to be managed at some point. And I think that this is just a sign that we need to take this a lot more seriously.
Thank you, Anya. I will take us into the final story of the day, which is a recommendation from my end. It is a new album that I have been listening to on repeat for the last week or so, since it has been released. It is by Tate McRae, her debut album called I Used to Think I Could Fly. It has 13 tracks, of which one is more like a prologue than an actual song. But 12 of the other tracks are so good. Like, I've been listening to them on repeat. They're just really catchy, and the lyrics are great and the tunes are really good as well. But what I think I like most about the album is that it really encapsulates the idea of growing up and some themes of growing up in a really nice way. And it's put into words really beautifully. She has a lovely voice. And I think overall the whole album is just something that is relatable for teenagers, that you can kind of sing in your room, but also what I like most about the album, though, is the fact that it really encapsulates some ideas and themes of growing up really beautifully in words. And it makes it really relatable for teenagers in general, and just something that you can scream to, but also you can cry to. So I think it's, she's a really nice voice. And I think overall it's just a really good album that you should give a listen to. She's only 18 years old, Tate McRae, and the fact that she's already releasing albums like this and releasing songs and music like this, I really can't wait for what she has in store for us for the future. That is all we have for you today on New Kids on the Block. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of New Kids on the Block, brought to you by Intel.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other podcasts on the IVM network.
We'll see you next week. But till then, do share this episode with your folks. Future will now wonderful with an Intel-powered laptop. And don't forget to do your homework.